The champions have been crowned. 100 Thieves is the 5th team ever to win in the LCS. And it's exciting because we have somebody from the coaching staff on to talk about championship weekend here on episode 187 of Hotline League. But first off, let me introduce my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman. How's it going, Mark?
Good.
Oh.
Ashley had what?
Oh, for a second it was weird. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
There was a muffled noise.
It's going good.
Ashley, what?
She had today off too, so we did a bunch of productive shit.
Oh, nice. So you guys aren't doing an episode of The Dive this week?
Dive's dead show.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's you hate to hear it, but either way,
you love to hear it.
We'll
Outlasted another podcast. Dive canceled.
Exactly. That's the only thing Hotline League is going for, is the legacy at this point. Of course, I want to give a shout out before we introduce our guest of the evening to Alienware and Mountain Dew Game Fuel for sponsoring the show. But joining us right now is fe0a5d, coach of 100T. So fe0a5d, okay. A lot of people may remember you because you've played both in Europe and in North America previously, and then you kind of disappeared, I think, to some of the North American fans. I know you were in academy for a little bit, and then now you're coaching at 100T. I think a lot of people didn't know that because obviously they knew about Reaper, but
yeah.
Maybe you can let everybody know what your path has been from a career perspective, especially as it relates to North America.
Oof, that's a lot. That's gonna be a long topic. I feel like.
Well, just give us the brief.
Years, you know?
The brief rundown, because again, I think a lot of people might recognize your name or whatever, but I'm trying to like refresh their memory if there's somebody who's like, "Oh, wasn't that 2016?"
Yeah, Raven, yeah.
Exactly. What's the shorthand?
The shorthand sort of is I play for Renegades, AD carry. That was my time in LCS in North America. And then basically after that, I went back to Europe to play for H2K. And then I went back to NA to play for Tempo Storm in Academy. And then I went back to Europe again to take some time off, think about my life choices, what should I do next, and then decide what to do for like a year. And then I decided that I'll give it 2 or 3 years more to try to get back to the top level of either LCS or LEC. And if I don't make it, I'll retire. And I told myself I'll do everything in my power I can to do that. I did do that, so I was very great. I was very, I held my head high. I had no regrets for those 2 years. I've tried my best. I have a lot of memories there. I won the Academy League twice, got MVP in some of the leagues. So it was a very good end of a career, even though it was not the top level, where it felt like I finally started winning because I didn't win before anything. And then I decided to retire because I didn't get to LEC or LCS and didn't want to play another year in Academy. And one of the choices that I had was going coaching. And 100 Thieves, the moment I made a tweet, Papa Smith, literally like 1 hour after I made a tweet, he reached out to me and was super excited to talk to me. So that was a very quick transition. I thought about it for quite some time, and then we joined hands. And yeah, I worked alongside Tony Zix, a lot in spring, and then obviously Reaper in summer. So that's like the short of it.
So basically. What's your official title? Is it assistant coach?
Yeah, assistant coach. I don't really know what's the job definition of assistant coach, because I kind of feel like I'm doing sort of everything, but yeah, it's like an assistant coach. Yeah.
Okay, and well, then that's a good question. Then it was going to be my follow up. Is you said you're kind of doing everything, so where are kind of like Reaper's duties versus your duties? Like, I don't know if you're focusing more on like helping the players with their mental and how they're doing, or if you're doing more like studying and analyst type coaching, like
Hmm.
where is your role versus Reaper's, for instance?
We have quite excessive coaching staff actually at 100 Thieves. We have Nathan, who's our analyst. We have Last Boy, who's our secondary assistant coach. Then we have me, and then we have Reaper. Reaper is obviously the captain of the ship. He makes the final calls, decisions, everything. So for me, it's basically whatever I see fit or whatever I like doing, I do, and I give a lot of suggestions to Reaper and to the players, and then some of the stuff I already like know it's good, so we were like already gonna do that with the players, and some of the stuff I go through Reaper and ask him, what does he feel about this, and then he like makes the decision or he takes over and basically yeah. So it's hard to describe, because like when I got hired by 100 Thieves, I wasn't. No one was like, "You're assistant coach. This is your job. This is what you do," and they like specified what I do. It was always like very open-handed and sort of like do everything you're passionate about. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Gotcha. It's just like finding the places where you can help, and then you're helping there.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I think that's really interesting because I think like there's a lot of different methods to coaching. And there's like the coaching tree guy who's like, you do this, you do that, and they have like very specific roles versus like the more open, like you find value where you can find it. And seems like it worked well, I guess is what I'd say, given that you guys just won.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that's for the players to say and decide, right? I feel like I did a great job, but that's my own opinion, and you never know if you're doing a great job because that's for the players to like sort of decide, right?
Yeah.
Or the broadcast narrative. Freeze is the greatest coach because he turned FBI into the best bot lane carry in the league by teaching him everything he knew from his time as AD carry, right?
So true.
Sure, for sure, for real,
Yeah,
for real.
yeah.
Okay, so you guys won yesterday. Congratulations again on the big win. I remember in the
Hell
press
yeah.
conference you opening up about like for how long you'd wanted to win and how cool it was that first year in you're coaching the team lifts a trophy, which I think is very cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I would like to emphasize how fucking much it means to me. Like no one can even understand how much it fucking means to me. Because I was being memed for my entire career that I've never won anything, and I've played for 8 years. So like winning in Spain twice felt really fucking nice, but it is not a major league, so it still didn't feel like I did it. And this year it's just unreal. I worked my ass off so much. I literally for the past month I've watched every single competitive match that there is, some of them twice, and showed everything I saw in those games to my players, and being able to get rewarded what I felt like was incredibly hard work and grind, and getting rewarded by the trophy, it felt amazing. It felt super fucking nice.
yeah, well, and so that's why I was gonna pivot. I mean, it's neat to hear about what it meant for you, but Mark was kind of pointing this out before the stream. There's been a lot of celebrating in the 100 Thieves house. We were seeing a bunch of social media stuff. What was it? Champagne bottles being thrown? Was that what you were saying, Mark?
So that was the one that we were talking about, but there was also a hilarious video of Nadeshot like trying to pick up a speaker, and it's like the camera's kind of on the 5 players celebrating, but then he drops the speaker. It's just it looked like a madhouse for the entire org to get the first one as well, because it wasn't like it was a lot of players first, one, a lot of staff's first one, and then the org itself. So it seemed like everyone was just going ape shit.
Yeah. There's a lot coming. I've noticed there were cameras everywhere when we were celebrating. So you guys are in for the show. Like we're
The next heist is gonna,
yeah, we're like spraying champagne over each other, just throwing bottles of champagne everywhere. Yes, it was lit. It was lit. I gotta give it to 100 Thieves. They know how to celebrate. They do. They do.
I mean, I would not be surprised if that was the wildest celebration evening, because I feel like almost every other time. I mean, I guess most of the time there's travel, right? And so the teams are out somewhere, but it's usually just like a riot after party, or maybe there's like a nice celebration dinner at some steakhouse or something like that. So it was very funny to see what I think is like a fairly stark difference in the celebration from the 100 Thieves org versus, I don't know, C9 TSM.
And you guys won so fucking fast. It was still bright out. It was in the day. You guys were like going ham. It was like, I don't know, probably like 6 p.m.
Well,
yeah.
Mark, before we get to the calls, is there anything else you want to talk to fe0a about? I mean, after yesterday's games, in some sense, there's a lot to talk about. In some sense, to your point, it was a clean 3-0. There didn't really feel like there was much tension. So, but I don't know, Mark, if you've got anything.
A couple things, but I think I can work them in with callers. So either the caller will hit the point, or I'll just bring it up when it's like kind of tangential to it.
That's fair. Well, I think let's get into it then. Mark, do you want to explain to fe0a how the show works? Because I'm going to assume that he hasn't seen it before.
Have you seen it before, fe0a?
No. I must admit and must apologize. I don't read Reddit.
No, you're good.
Do anything. I don't see it.
No, it's always funny because sometimes people come onto this show and they don't even know what they signed up for. This is actually a live call-in show, which means that as I'm spamming Twitch chat right now, there's a Discord link. Fans can come and join the Discord. Fans, when you get here, join Pleb Calls or Pleb Calls 2 voice channels where you'll mute once you get in there. And then in the Pleb Topics text channel up above, you're going to go ahead and put what it is that you want to talk about. If you have a question for fe0a is about what 100 Thieves coaching staff was like, you think that they don't deserve World still and they have the easy side of the bracket and they're just lucker dogs, so, managed to dodge all those hard teams, of course, like TSM. You can put that take in the one.
Yeah.
And then, if I like your take, I'll pull you from those call rooms into the waiting room where you'll hang out until it's your turn to come on air, and then you can accuse fe0a of lucking out.
And by the way, just for some ideas on what to talk about, guys, obviously we'll talk about 100 Thieves. We'll talk about this past weekend, all three of the teams, and take calls on that. But it is kind of the end of the year, well, the season for LCS. And there's a bunch of different stuff that got announced last week because there was a press conference. And so we had things like, we now know Houston is going to host spring finals next year. And in 2023, we're going to go back to Newark. Well, didn't go back, but finally go to Newark. They talked about, or Greeley and I had a pretty open conversation about Academy and that how there's a pretty big push to have Academy go remote and not be based in LA in the same place like it has been. So I think that's something interesting to talk about, what that could mean. I'm trying to think of everything else that got announced, but I mean, there were several different things. The new players show got announced. Mark and I think Mark I told you I had heard something about that. Maybe you had too, previously, but it's finally out. So that'll be interesting. I have to go watch American Vandal because I've never seen it. Mark, have you seen it?
A couple episodes. It's I think it's really good. It was a very clever. I don't want to spoil it, like what the twist is for you, or not the twist, but like the concept.
Sure.
I think it's a very funny
I've heard it's
concept.
a riff off of like serial killer things, and instead it's
if
like,
you've ever seen a true crime documentary, it just is making fun of that, but like, or not making fun of, it's parodying, I should say.
Yes.
And it's really well done.
So that's a thing, which is, I think, super fascinating. So I don't know. There's a whole lot to talk about on tonight's show, and I'm happy to get into it. If you are a sub, by the way, thank you for being a sub. Please make sure your Twitch and your Discord are synced so that you can get access to Subtopics channel. Put your take in there. It moves a little slower, so it's not a guarantee, but it is perhaps a little helpful. And other than that, Mark is going to go off and look for our first caller here any second. While he is doing that, thank you to a Honey Badger, Hydro Goliath, Hippo Squirrel, Moshu Pork, Count001 for 35 months. Rico Suave for 38. St. Louis Slayer also for 38. Parakini and DJ Morale. Thank you, everybody, for your subs. Mark is grabbing somebody right now. It's
Hello.
Dopest, who I believe is on the show previously, yes?
Yeah, I've been on a few times.
Exactly. Okay. Where are you calling from?
Boise, Idaho.
Boise. Okay. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Okay, so basically my question was mostly for Freeze. I just wanted to know how he thought his experience as a pro player helped him transition into being a coach. That's like basically the first part. So maybe if he wants to address that, and then I had maybe a second follow up.
Well, really quickly, why don't we get your follow up here too, just so that.
Yeah. So aside from that, just wondering if he thinks that being a former pro player or at least being high elo is important to be a good coach, because I noticed that on 100 Thieves, a lot of the staff is either former pro player in the case of Lustboy and Rebird, or as far as I understand, at least like relatively high rated. So just maybe getting his opinion on coaching staff in general. Is it really important to have that former experience so you can intelligently talk to the players about the game?
How's your previous experience informed your coaching, and how necessary is it to be, either previously high elo or pro, etc.?
So okay, I'll address this way. Where I played for 8 years, and in the 8 years of my professional career, I had only 2 good coaches, or maybe 2, maybe 3, in all of the teams. And I've been saying this for a very long time to my friends, is that the league is basically waiting for players that are old to retire and become coaches. And not all the players that will retire and become coaches will be good coaches. But there is this huge gap in the coaching staff where we need to go through like a almost like a
purge.
What is it called? not purge, but like like the age, like a different age.
Yeah.
You cross
generation.
Generation. Yes, exactly. That's the word. It almost feels to me like you need to go to the next generation, and then through that generation you have to like selectively the league has to selectively choose the coaches, because not everyone from the retired players will be a good coach. So that I feel very strongly about that. If you're a ex-professional, you have the upper edge to everyone else who's not the coach. But there are exceptions to the coaching staff. Since I said I had two or three good coaches that were not players, and they were really good. So it really depends, because if you want to do a strategy and you want to be a strategic coach, then you definitely need to have the background for player, or professional, because it literally shows you a different view of the game. Because it's different when you play the game and when you look at the game, and you kind of have to like mix it both to give it to the players for them to understand and connect better. So yeah, I feel very strongly about it, but.
So you can be good if you weren't a former pro, but it sounds like you're like that in general should be the baseline.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it makes sense. There's obviously exceptions to every rule, but players having the game knowledge will bring more to the table, especially right out of the gate. I feel like a lot of people need time to learn. Coaches who are not players and players who become coaches, like no matter what, you're gonna need time to learn. But at least a former player has a perspective that they bring right away, where there's a lot of analysts you bring on where it's like, well, you're good with like, you seem to understand this like stuff, but you still need to train them up. Whereas like, I feel like a player can be like, well, you used to play AD carry, like work with our AD carry on matchups or something, it's a lot faster. But so a little bit more back on the first point, like what were some of the things that you brought to coaching that you experienced as a player? Like, were there things that you're like, oh, I wish my coaches did that, and then when you became a coach, you did it? Or like, how was being a player first informed how you coach?
So throughout the career, again, it's sort of like I took from every coach that I had was sort of like he was doing something well and he was doing something bad. And from all of the coaches that were doing something, I sort of like took something that I felt like is good. And in a lot of the academy leagues that I've played on towards my end of the career, I had to be the guy coaching the other players and explaining to them, you know, lane management, wave control, rotations in mid game, side lane, macro, all these things. I had to be coaching the academy players because they didn't have the basics or foundations for that. And I feel like I kind of created a system for myself of, you know, like this is the first thing you need to learn. This is this like, and building on top of it, like giving like the players the foundation and then building on top of the foundation, and improving and giving them more depth. But first, like getting the basics done, if you know what I mean.
With pro players like the ones that are on 100T who have been playing for a while, and I know like some of these guys are still either fresh in their role or, you know, relatively fresh to the big leagues coming in last year, etc. But do you find that the stuff that you were teaching the academy and amateur players was already like these guys already know, or are there times where you're like, wow, I got to teach one of these guys about wave management because they're doing it all wrong or something? I think it's tough for me to sometimes know, as pro players grow, are they like, generally speaking, just leveling up across the board, or are there times where, you know, certain players might be really good in categories A, B, C, and yet for some reason they never really learn D, and so you're like, wow, this is like a basic, and yet you don't know. So I don't know if that what your experience has been like with the 100T guys, but it's probably very different, yes, from the academy side.
Yeah, it's very different from academy. With the LCS team, starting in spring, I already felt like they have a lot of the stuff in their heads, and they know a lot of the stuff very well. Because for me, I already felt like the players are top 3 or top 4 in their specific roles, so they have all the basics done. They just didn't know how to, you know, like connect each other and how to layer like their advantages together to create a, you know, like a plan or what to do with if they have push in the lane or if they have prio, if they can do something with it. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know like they sort of like felt they had the animal instinct. I felt like all of it. And for lane they were really really good. But in mid game, it felt like this is my personal objective, but or feeling. But in Spring's play, it felt like they don't even know what macro is. Even though they were really good at the only one I didn't feel that way was Someday. Someday knew what he should be doing on the map, and when he should be doing it. Yeah. But the others were very like confused. They just basically go mid and do something, or something's gonna happen, you know, rather than specifically playing macro in the game. And we've been struggling with that even in summer, you know, like everyone was memeing in summer that the 100T's mid game is horrible, which it was. Honestly. We managed to fix it this playoffs, where we watched a lot of Mad Lions VODs and clips where I was constantly asking the players about Rogue and Mad Lions, that their macro is very good. Rogue not so much in summer, but in spring Rogue was really good in macro, and I kept showing them all the time what Rogue does in macro in spring, and that way it felt like in spring at the end of the spring, it felt like they already know what to do in their head, but they didn't put it in practice. In summer, with Reaper coming in, we basically dropped a lot of the stuff we were doing in spring, and we started all over. So it felt like we forgot about this, or we put this somewhere in the back of our minds, the mid game macro, and then in playoffs, when we started watching Mad Lions, that Mad Lions macro and how they play in mid game, and looked at our own way we played mid game, it felt like everyone remembered how we used to do that and then started doing it. And on Saturday, if you would watch the series, then on Saturday versus or like when we played versus TL before this week, it was horrible. Like both the teams were so horrible. Like when I was watching the games, it was everyone's just had a bad day or slept badly because the games were even though it was 5 games, it was horrible. From like a strategic point of view and from macro and from how the teams played, because there were 3 kills in 30 minutes, for example. No one was doing anything. And then we took the week of practice, watched the clips and VODs of Mad Lions, watched our clips and VODs of our mid-game macro, and then watched FPX how they did it. And we kind of combined everything into the way we played on Saturday. On Saturday, we started already having a good mid game, but we were doing mistakes of, like basically we didn't push this one wave extra, or we didn't hover this side. And that was basically like a rusty mistakes, or we started doing what we should have been doing, but we didn't we didn't do it perfectly. And then we went back in the compound that day and watched the clips again. And watched how we did it, and basically talk about what we should be fixing for tomorrow. And then on Sunday we just gigastomped TL. It was not even fucking close. We I was almost crying when I was when I saw our mid game macro. It was so fucking good, So it's just unreal how much we improved over those 2 days and the last week. It was super nice, super crazy that the players are this good.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there was an insane turnaround because everyone expected a repeat or worse of the first time you guys played. So a huge improvement between the weeks. And I think.
Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Oh, you can go first.
I was just gonna say, as an aside, to that point, and hopefully Freeze doesn't take offense to this, but if you had stacked ranked all the different possible outcomes yesterday, I really do feel like most people would have put 100T 3-0 at the lowest. Even if people thought the game was going to be super close or the match was going to be really close, I don't think there were too many people that were just expecting 100T to come in and roll TL. So it was wild. Mark, what were you going to say?
His point about what you're teaching players, because it's the game changes all the time, and for Freeze to say he's watched every single game from every region. It's you're looking for what everyone's doing, because you don't know oh, what's a strong level 1 right now, what's a cool thing they're doing with this champion. There's so many things that you can pick up that a pro player, even if they're incredible, is probably spending their time doing something else. So I feel that kind of stuff is always going to be valuable, and especially as a former pro player, you can then pick up and be well, normally I'd be thinking this, but now that I'm doing it this way, you have a different perspective, I think.
Yeah, I'm the thing as a player I hated the most was watching VODs. So I know how much they don't like it, and that's why I'm trying to, funnily enough, I enjoy it nowadays a lot, because when I bring a good point to the players, then the acknowledgement, the smile on their face, that's what gets me going. That's my fuel. So I'm trying my best to, give them straight up the clips and straight up the VODs, or what they have to look at, because I know as a player, I would not watch VODs. It was just I would think that I can play solo queue and improve in solo queue more, but that's literally not true. This past week, I knew that us watching clips and VODs will improve us way more than just playing another scrim or playing more solo queue.
Yeah. Do you have a moment or something from one of these series where you're that was me and I made I gave them that advantage or anything like that? Because that kind of watching a bunch of stuff. I'm sure you're watching TL footage too. When we played LMQ way back in the day, I noticed I had a level 1 pattern, and in our series against them, the players, we didn't even have coaches on stage back then, so this is a lot of credit to the players for even remembering a level 1 that I noticed them doing, and we got first blood off it, and it was the proudest moment ever as a coach, where I was holy fuck, I helped my team get first blood. Do you have one of those moments where all your VOD review led to this thing that helped?
Yeah, I do.
Are you able to share it, I should say? Because if it's a strategic thing, maybe not. But
I can. It's sort of like I'll be taking credit and doing like things for specific things. So it's kind of like not very big fan of it as a coach. Maybe I shouldn't be doing it, but I am super proud of the macro we showed on Saturday and Sunday or Sunday. The players are even memeing it, and they're saying, "Let's do Medlions, let's do Medlions," and everyone knows what that means and what to do. And that to me, it felt like it was a huge difference. It made a huge difference in our playoffs run.
so cool.
So it made me emotional when we were winning and doing this. It was really cool.
Dopest,
Yeah.
I know we went all over the place with your take, but I think it was a fantastic one, or a fantastic question. Is there anything you wanted to say really quickly? I mean, we can't reopen the conversation, but any follow-ups on any of this?
No, just like if Freeze can think of it quickly, it's fine. But just kind of wondering maybe if he could think of a specific thing that maybe one of the coaches that wasn't a pro player or like a high elo person he thought like did something to help him. Because I know like in the general conversation by a lot of co-streamers, they're like, which I kind of agree with, is that like pro players do make the best coaches because they know the game. They can like engage intellectually with the players. So just kind of wondering if he can think of maybe a specific thing that this quote unquote lower elo player maybe helped him with or gave him insight into that he didn't think of. If he doesn't, it's fine. But
not really. I don't. It doesn't come up to my mind that fast.
Well, regardless, Dopest, thank you so much for the call. Is there anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
No, just shout out to 100 Thieves for winning their first title. That's cool. I'm glad that we have more solid teams in the LCS. I hope that you and TL do as proud at Worlds. I don't have much faith in Cloud9 right now, but hopefully they can prove me wrong too. But I think TL and C9, I think you guys have a chance. You guys can get our groups.
Very good.
So.
Well, aspirational indeed. You guys can get out of groups. Dopest, I'm going to go ahead because Twitch chat is calling for it and give you Gamefield victory caller. So just drop me a message. Do you have Twitter? Actually, I'll follow up with you. I had to change my message settings on Discord recently, so you can't just message me, but I'll figure something out.
All right, cool.
Either way, thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you guys. Have a wonderful night.
See ya.
See ya.
Peace.
Okay, off Mark goes to grab the next caller. We got Soju Ninja, thank you for the 16 months. Justin the Fresh for 9. Fish Sticks 44 for 25. Rasenkan for 10. And TJ Slayer, thank you for the Prime. Thanks everyone who's subbing. Very, very generous of you. Thank you. If you have a Prime sub, you can hover your cursor over the screen and you'll find out if you have one available because there'll be a little crown there and you can click it. Maldini is here. Maldini, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Novato, California, near San Francisco.
Nice. It's Novato?
Novato, yeah.
Oh, okay. I've not heard of it. Either way. Thanks for calling. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
Yeah, so I want to give 100 Thieves, just amazing credits for being the 5th individual, or 5th unique winner for the LCS. I think that's like a huge thing for the LCS, and it shouldn't be understated. I do think, however, that their path to the finals was sort of like a 1 in 10 chance. I mean, when you think about it, I think that C9 and TL massively underperformed, and the inverse was true for 100 Thieves. I think they massively overperformed to how they were looking prior to those series that they played in. I think that if you look at the players on TL and C9, the roof for them is higher than 100 Thieves, I believe, and I think that they just hit the lower side, and 100 Thieves hit the higher side when playing their series.
Gotcha. So it's a 100. By the way, I just want to say something really quickly. I asked, and Freeze, I am really happy you're here, but the immediate thing to do once you ask 100T, or once 100T wins, is I messaged Papa Smithy and I said, hey, can any of your players make it on the show? And he's like, "Oh, we got a lot going on tomorrow. They're really busy." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Oh, Freeze, that's perfect. I loved interviewing Freeze. He'll be a perfect guest if you can make that happen." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll hit up Freeze." Freeze comes on. Now in the Twitch chat, we got Hoohee and Closer. Closer, I'm sorry to say, caller, he thinks your take is very bad.
And before we get into it, I just want to say I appreciate the caller, not pulling the punch too much for what their take was. The rolling the 1 in 10,
No,
it takes guts to come in here and tell that to the member of the team that just rolled that 10 out of 10 apparently.
And by the way, I just want to point this out because people complain that the calls are not that great sometimes or whatever, and I think it gets really boring when we have a guest on and we have 3 calls in a row that are some variation of 100T is the best team ever, and oh my god, we love 100T, because then the guest usually just goes, "Oh, I agree with everything you're saying about my team." But Mark, before we let Freeze unleash, and maybe he can, get some messages from Hoohee and Closer to insult our caller. But Mark, what do you think? Because to the caller's point, nobody predicted 100T to do as well as they did. It did feel like TL was just kind of like rolling over in some of those matches. It didn't really feel like they put up much of a fight, whether because 100T was stomping them or because they sucked and didn't show up. I don't know about Cloud9's game the day before, so I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on the 3 teams and their performance this weekend relative to how they normally are.
For the Saturday, I didn't have any strong opinion of like overperforming or whatever, because I predicted 100 Thieves to win, and I said 3-2 or 3-1. I can't remember what I said on the dive and stuff, but I already thought they were going to win anyway, so that wasn't like a shock. I thought TL was going to win the finals, so I can say I was surprised, but I think that's more like, oh, I was wrong, more than like, oh man, 100 Thieves just got fucking lucky. TL didn't show up. I don't think TL played well. I mean, like a 3-0 stomp against a team, is almost always that team probably didn't play well unless it's just a giga skill gap, and I don't think TL's bad players. So I think part of it, TL didn't show up, but I don't think it means 100 Thieves would have lost if TL did. I thought that they made some adaptations in draft and stuff that I really liked, like taking the Shen, dodging Ornn. I don't think they played Ornn in any games. No, they didn't. So like there were some of those things that I didn't like in their first series, where I was like, oh, they're playing too much scaling. I want them to play more early game. And I think they, at least from my outside perspective, did have some of that shift in some of their champion pools and stuff. And I think they adapted well in the week off. Freeze has been talking about how much they focused on their mid game and stuff. I'd have to go back and remember, but I remember Closer having a really good series against TL the first time around too, and I think they won a bunch of their early games, if I remember. And so the fact that they clean up their mid game means they actually like snowball that lead is a pretty big deal. So I don't know. I don't think it's, oh, one team got lucky, the other one got unlucky. I think like one team made more improvements in the week off for the rematch.
Well, two quick follow-up on that. Not talking about the teams and how they perform, but do you feel like there's any sense that like the players individually under and overperformed in a lot of cases, right? Like I think a lot of people were really critical of how often Perk seemed to get caught out on Saturday, and a lot of his deaths felt weird.
Did you watch him in the regular season? He led the league in deaths at pre-15 and mid laners.
I am only trying to spark discussion.
I know. I'm not. This is me flaming the people having mistakes, not flaming you for asking the question.
And then similarly, it just felt like there was a lot less coming out of TL on the individual stand. Like you didn't see CoreJJ like playing the way it feels like he normally does. And then on the other hand, that was probably the best series of Closer's life, right? At least in his experience over the past 2 years in North America, because he played out of his mind, right? So I don't know if you feel like it didn't seem like it was always just 100T doing really well. Obviously they improved, their macro was great, but Closer individually just seemed to play incredibly well, right? So what do you think of those types of conversations?
Didn't he play incredibly well in the C9 series? He like single-handedly won them the game on Lee when they didn't have like any other forms to engage, and got 2 insects off on people. And he carried a bunch of games. I forget, it was the EG series that he was smurfing with Viego, and that started the whole like don't give Closer Viego thing. Was actually at the very start of playoffs. Like, yeah, as Closer said himself in Twitch chat, usual Closer gameplay. I didn't think it was. I mean, I made the case on the dive last week, and even on the pre-show before the C9 series, that he has a case for being the most dominant player in playoffs at the time at any position. So like, yeah, when he hulks out, it's not a surprise. So I don't think it was an overperformance at all.
Okay, Freeze. Time to unleash you on the caller. Okay, so this credit to you on your 1 in 10 fluke win. What do you got to say?
How did you weight the dice?
Yeah, exactly.
So let me start with this, right? So, as I said, I don't really watch social media. I only catch up the most obvious ones when the players are talking about it. So there's is everyone was talking about, that the C9 TL is gonna be the finals. Everyone was talking about, EG, TSM and TL or C9 making it to Worlds. So everyone was kind of like saying that we're bad, which to some extent I would agree with that. Before the playoffs, we were definitely on the way down. We were on the slump, and the other teams were looking better. But doesn't that mean then if we're that bad in a regular season and then we fucking destroyed every single team we play on our way up, and you could see the progress for versus EG, we would have 5 games, the games would be close and wouldn't be looking good. Then we would play C9 and the games would be looking much better, but still not clean. And then we would play TL and the TL games would be fucking giga stomped. Doesn't that just means that we're better team, better players, we're improving when everyone else is not improving, and we're stepping up and playing well when everyone else is fucking choking? That just means we're better players. We're better players. We're a better team. When it matters, we fucking stepped up and we fucking destroyed everyone. So everyone, shut the fuck up. You fucking suck. You could have done it too. We did it. You didn't. We're the fucking champions. You are not. So now, shut the fuck up and let us enjoy the fucking trophy. We worked our ass off. Everyone.
Maldini, he did say everyone, so I believe that includes you. Is there any follow-ups to any of what you were saying?
No, yeah, no, I respect that. I think, well, when I was making the take, I wanted to draw the line at lower bracket finals, so 100 Thieves and C9, and then 100 Thieves and TL. So I wanted to compare like the play before then and then the play after, because 100 Thieves versus EG was like a completely different look than 100 Thieves versus TL in the finals. So that's really where I saw that like 100 Thieves compared to how they played versus EG really overperformed. And then TL really underperformed compared to how they did against 100 Thieves the first time and against TSM and C9.
Gotcha. So you're just sort of saying like if you look at the playoffs in general, you don't, in your mind, you don't perceive it necessarily as, and correct me if I'm wrong, as 100T like growing over the course of the playoffs and these other guys slumping. You mean like this? It was kind of random that like 100T was able to peak at the time that they did, and that TL and C9 slumped at the time that they did. That's kind of what I'm picking up.
Sort of. So I don't think it was completely random. I think that they did definitely, like, with every series they played, they got better, and it showed. I think that when you going into finals weekend, which was that was just C9, 100 Thieves, and 100 Thieves TL. I think the weeks before they were looking completely different to how they looked in finals weekend, and that's really where I draw the distinction.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, either way, thank you, caller, and sorry that I didn't get your argument out a little bit earlier. I wanted to run interference quickly before everyone got to you, and perhaps should have given you a little bit more space for your take. Is there anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
Shout out Alienware, shout out Game Fuel. The show wouldn't be possible without them. Actually, I do want to shout out Closer. That Lee Sin play on Tactical was insane. So mad respect for that one.
Very good. Thank you, Maldini, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, thank you.
All right. We're going to take a quick break to talk about Alienware, and there's a new cool thing that I got to let you guys know about. If you head over to alienware.com/Travis, up at the top, you are going to see Join the Alienware Games, which you can check out from August 27th to October 7th. They have finals on October 23rd. It's a big, cool thing that they are doing, where you can compete in all sorts of games like Fortnite, Valorant, Rainbow Six Siege, etc. Additionally, in addition to that, if you go to alienware.com/Travis, please do that first. It's very helpful. And then you head over to the Alienware website. What you will see is right now, Intel Gamer Days are happening. This normally happens in the fall, and it's a big, big way to get discounts on gaming laptops, PCs, and so much more. And so that's kicked off here on the 27th, and it runs through Labor Day, which is September 6th. So please do yourself a favor. Take a look at the deals that are going on the Alienware website for Intel Gamer Days. It is a very, very cool thing to be able to, sometimes you think, oh, I got to wait till Black Friday. I got to wait till, I don't know, whatever other holiday time to get a great deal. Well, guess what? There's a fantastic window right now, Intel Gamer Days, to get a great deal on an Intel computer. And when you do, make sure that you use the code in the description of this. I don't know if it'll stack. Doesn't always stack. Sometimes it does. It seems... I don't have all the details on when and when it won't. But if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to it on a podcast, you can go check out the YouTube description to get that link. And thank you, everyone, so much for supporting what I do, because you support Alienware and they support what I do. So what is that? One of those properties. Mark, you're not paying attention. It's okay.
No.
Transactional property.
When am I ever?
Transitive property. All right. Thank you to Alienware for sponsoring the show. We love you guys, and we'll catch you next time. Okay, Mark.
Yeah.
What do you got? You got another caller for us coming up?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay. Thank you to TJ Slayer, J Boudi, I'm Elvis4 for 39 months, Q Parker, Nodak, who gifted a sub to Closer. I'm sure he'll appreciate that. The Best Cliches, and Crimson Clematis. Is that how it is? Either way, thank you, everyone, for subbing. Mark is grabbing the next caller right now, and he will be back momentarily with that individual. And here it is. Dank Jesus is here. Dank Jesus, where are you calling from?
Calling from Aveiro, Portugal.
Oh, I'm going to turn you up. What's that?
I'm calling from Aveiro, Portugal.
One more time. Sorry, if you can get a little closer to the microphone. You're kind of quiet for me. Caller?
He muted himself. He's back.
Caller? Where are you from? Oh, you're cutting in and out, I think. Well, let's see if you can give us
What about now?
Okay, yeah, you sound better now. Where are you calling from?
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I'm calling from Aveiro, Portugal.
Oh, okay. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah. My take is that the 3 teams that NA is sending are the 3 best teams that NA has ever sent so far. They still won't make it out of groups, probably.
Okay.
No, I know it's not them, but hear me out. I think the biggest problem for NA right now is that the lack of high-level practice, the variety of high-level practice is what's really holding them back, right? I'm going to just break this down. I think right now there are, let's say, S-plus teams, right? You've got Mad Lions from EU, you've got Damwon from the LCK, you've got multiple teams in the LPL. I'd say FPX is definitely the clear favorite, but you've also got EDG with their slower style. I don't think there's an S-plus tier in NA, and I think that really stifles the growth of the region when it comes to international competition. NA teams always have to play catch-up in boot camps. EU teams also do, but usually less so because they still have more variety with multiple EU Masters teams. And NA teams, I'd say this is another thing, at least this is right, this is the untrained eye talking here, but NA teams don't have clearly defined strengths and weaknesses the same way other top-tier teams from other regions do. Like, let's say, for example, FPX, their early roaming style with Don't Be, their flexibility just dominates the map. Fnatic's early game looks insane. Mad Lions have that insane mid-game team fight. That one always, along with, I'd say EDG, though EDG, I can't really put my mind on them. They choke you out throughout the game. I don't see a strong, a big strength for NA teams. The same way I see that strength for in other teams.
Yes, and so you just
And
think it'll be tough because we don't have access to a variety of opponents with different play styles, and
Yeah.
and also there's none of our teams are particularly at top tier the way that you think there might be at least one or
I
multiple
think
in every other region.
yeah, exactly. S plus teams are teams that I would say are true title contenders, but this is
Gotcha.
obviously for Worlds. It always depends on player form, how the teams speak, how the practice goes.
So it's not even that we can't. It's not even that we can't get out of groups because we don't have like a title contender, or rather, not because there's nobody that will get out as the title contender, but because there's not a title contender, none of our teams can get good enough, and won't be able to level up in fast and in time in the boot camp.
It's not just that. Usually, I would say, even without a title contender, or a really really strong team pushing the other teams. I think this year, NA would have made it out of groups, if not for the fact that wildcard regions are looking much better. And the last thing, again, ties back to the whole practice thing. NA teams will probably, we see it every Worlds, right? NA teams get punished for mistakes in the international stage that they sometimes don't get punished for in NA.
Okay. Freeze. Are we doomed? Give us the hopium.
Just to make myself absolutely clear. This is
Really
just
quick. You got 10 seconds.
So far, and not 100%. You still there are still really good players, even the native players. I've been impressed with them. Go ahead.
Okay, gotcha.
I definitely have to agree with what you're saying to some extent. I think the teams, they're not S tier, right? But the players are capable of being the same level or slightly lower than than the best players in the world.
Absolutely.
And for me, this is a very interesting topic, because for me it is absolutely like you have a good logic, you're correct in the way you're saying this, but in some extent where I only feel this way if the players and the coaching staff is lazy of the top 3 teams. Then NA is doomed and will be doomed and will never, like, there has to be one team in NA that will do everything in their power all the time, watch all the other leagues and learn from the other leagues because they're better than NA, and then do it in NA. And then when that team does it in NA, everyone else will learn it from them, and then they will, if they're not lazy and they are actively trying to beat the first team, then they will make new ways of approaching the way the number 1 team plays, and that way the region will improve, right? So I definitely agree with that. I must say though that I am incredibly proud for having the players we have on 100 Thieves, because as I said before, they are fast learners. I saw this in spring, I saw this in summer. Whenever we go over a point, they learn it super quick, they implement it super quick, and they even improvise on the point. So for us in 100 Thieves, it is basically about getting to EU as fast as possible and playing versus the best teams and scoring versus the best teams, because I know if we have enough time, we will get on the same level as them, 100%. The players have it in them, and we will be beating them. It's just about if we can get there fast enough and play enough scrims and practice long enough versus the top teams.
What do you think about the other two? Because you agree with the logic somewhat, but what about the actual assertions that this is the best 3 teams we've ever sent to NA, and also that what do you think like the likelihood is that you get out of groups? He's saying it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to each of the Worlds teams and each of the seasons, how good they are. So I can't really say that, but 4B is we will get out of groups with 100 Thieves. I'm pretty sure of it. With other teams, I'm not so sure if they will get out of groups, because you could just looking at the improvement we did and everyone else didn't improve. I feel like we'll get out of groups if we fly over to Europe fast enough, get the visa for closer, and then practice with everyone. Then we will get out of groups.
And if you don't, to your early point, it's because the coaching staff and players are lazy, right, Freeze?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad we've got that. I'm just going to clip that and keep it around for a couple months just in case. Okay, Mark, what do you think of this? I mean, last week we had this is the best 3 teams, but I'm obviously not as much of a... This is a twisted version of that call in some sense.
It's a twisted negative version of the hype.
Yeah.
I feel like Freeze already hit on a lot of like the bigger picture points. There's a couple of nitpicks I always like to throw at people with some of the points being made. Not that I necessarily disagree, but like the idea that iron sharpens iron is like a very common saying, you know, that people have about if there's a good team that you can practice against, you're going to get better yourself. And that's obviously true. But I don't think you need that. And there's plenty of instances of teams, like how does the best team in the world become the best team in the world? If they're like, who are they playing against? The team's worse than them. You can't improve by playing people worse than you. How does it swap regions? Like how did the best team in the world become Damwon when the year before it was in China? Like, yeah, they probably scrimmed some of them, but they also just improve. How did Kobe Bryant go straight to the NBA from fucking high school? He worked really fucking hard. You know, like there's instances of people and teams elevating themselves regardless of situation of who they're practicing against. And I think that, to Freeze's point, comes to the team itself can't be lazy. They can't be happy with 3-0ing their scrims that day. You know, the coaching staff and the players have to always be looking for the best way that they can improve because you are somewhat still a product of your environment. It does suck that you can't play these top teams. And like you said, Caller, you're going to get punished against a top team a way that you won't get punished against a bad team. And you'll have to learn like, okay, I guess I can't do that. I guess I can't draft this way. I can't blind this thing. I can't do this thing. This matchup really plays this way. You do learn all that stuff. But again, I feel like you have to just hold yourself to a higher standard and say like, you can't just put it on, oh, well, we need to get out there. And like, we don't have good teams, so we're just fucked. I don't really buy that portion of the argument.
Mark, what do you... Okay. Before last week to this week, did your opinions on how many teams or if any teams were getting out of groups at Worlds change? Because I think there are a lot of people...
What did I say last week?
Well, I forget what you said last week. I think you maybe avoided saying anything, which maybe was you saying that you didn't think it. But I think there are some people, and I kind of felt this, right? Whenever all these teams looked like they were on the same level, they all looked a lot more competitive, a lot more interesting, and you're like, oh, wow, we're sending 3 great teams to Worlds. But then 100T just showed up and made everyone else look bad this past weekend, so now it feels like we're sending 1 good team to Worlds.
I don't buy that shit at all. No. I feel like we're sending 3 good teams. I agree with the caller. I mean, like, I'm not optimistic because I'm jaded. Not that these teams did anything wrong. I am just a jaded North American fan.
Yeah, there was not a world in which any team would have made you very optimistic this year.
No, I mean, they could have been the greatest team in North American history, like 28-0, undefeated, go to Worlds, not dropping a game in playoffs, and I'd be like, I don't know about these guys. But I think I think last week that I would expect at least 1 team to get out of groups. I feel like if not, it's a failure. I want that as our expectation. That like I would love to win a best of 5. That would make me really happy. But if a team doesn't get out of groups, it should be viewed as a failure for their attempts. I mean, sometimes you get in a really fucking stacked group and you're just like, well, fuck me. And that sucks. But outside like those situations, yeah. I will say groups are getting harder because I mean, last year Mad Lions kind of fucking sucked. You know, with how they busted out. Yeah, no offense to them, but they busted out in the play-in stage. But in theory, the 4 seed from LPL and LCK are going to be better than play-in teams, which are typically who you would be getting in your 4th spot potentially in a group. And now you'll be getting a 4th seed probably from them if they make it through play-ins. We don't know that yet, but it at least is more likely that these teams are better. Even if it's a play-in team that gets out over them, you're more guaranteed that that's actually a strong team than you would have been in previous years where play-ins have been a little bit weaker.
So, I mean, to that point, Mark, is there a chance where we are sending the 3 best teams, but this will be the toughest groups ever?
I think both those things can be true. Yeah.
Oh, that's a
Chakra.
nice little way to pour some ice down anybody's pants if they're good.
Was that not hyping you guys up? When
Well, look-
100 Thieves make it out over China, LCK, and EU, they get first seed with the other regions all represented. Isn't that more hype?
At least one of them will choke. There's usually something that goes terrible in play-ins for a major region team, and I feel
I'm talking about regular group stage when they 6-0
Yeah,
the
yeah,
group.
yeah,
It's gonna be so hype.
But I'm just saying maybe
The reverse
one of
TSM.
these don't escape. I don't know. Okay, Dank Jesus. Sounds like you've got some mixed reactions here to your take. Is there anything you want to shout out before we say goodbye?
Yeah, can I just hit a
Sure.
one point because I definitely agree with Mark about what he said about the teams because the reaction people had to NA teams when they had some series that weren't as spectacular. I don't think that matters as long as the team peaks at the right time, and that comes from the practice and the bootcamp that they have pre-Worlds. And I really hope 100 Thieves in particular doesn't get a group of death because I would like to see them get out of groups. I'm a big fan of the org despite being a much bigger LEC fanboy. So shout out to Papa Smithy in particular.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Also
Dank
my
Je-
boy Abidagi.
Thanks so much, Dank Jesus, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Bye.
All right. Off Mark goes to grab our next caller. Thank you to Fish Emulsion, Mandalorian, Mutta, America Vespucci for 18 months, and Ogigs, thank you for the prime. Thanks everyone for the subs. Very nice of you. Blue Jay is here. Go ahead, Mike.
I got to preface this by saying that this take got 3 poop emojis in Discord, so we'll have to see what Freeze thinks of it.
Blue Jay, remind everyone where you're calling from.
Calling from Ontario, Canada.
Ontario, Canada. And Freeze, for context, Blue Jay is a frequent caller. Okay, Ontario, Canada, Blue Jay, what is your 3 poop emoji take?
Yeah, there's going to be some flame for this, I think. But anyways, the take is that it's time we accept that the Perk signing has been a huge disappointment. His good performances are too few and far between, but this does not mean that he can't turn things around and erase it all with a good performance at Worlds. But he's got a long way to go at this point.
Well,
Freeze, you just destroyed Perks on Saturday. Why'd you guys do that to him?
well, here's one thing. I think it's worth pointing out to Blue Jay's credit that Perks was set up as the ultimate boss in the hype video this weekend, and then by the day of, they aired a different cut of the hype video, which Perks was not in because he'd not moved on, and he talked about how he had all this domestic success, but he comes to the, it's easy to dominate in LEC. You got all those people over there. You come to the big leagues, LCS, and of course you're going to struggle. And that's what we're seeing. Perks facing some real mid laners now in the LCS. And Freeze, you agree with me, right? That's what's happened?
Yeah. Sure.
I can add on as well if you need me to.
Yeah, go ahead. You can feel free to elaborate a little bit, and then I'll throw it to Freeze.
Yeah, just a question though. Was Perks playing AD carry and then role swap back to mid lane and got signed for C9, or did he play mid lane for a split and then got assigned for C9?
He did mid lane in 2020 spring, and then in 2020 summer he went back to AD carry. So in 2020 he played both, and then he got signed after.
And then he got carry. So yeah. So he basically played AD carry before he got signed for C9, right?
Yep.
Yes, but only for once. I mean, obviously for multiple splits, but it's not like he spent all last year.
One split, yeah.
It wasn't a 2-year period of him playing AD. So, I don't know. Go ahead, Blue Jay. What were you going to elaborate on?
Yeah, the only small thing that I wanted to add is that this take is not about flaming Perks. It's a lot more about just holding players accountable to how other players are held accountable. Like, I don't feel like, I mean, a lot of analysts and a lot of fans do hold players accountable in like a fair way, but a lot don't. And sometimes Perks is making just huge throws that he himself will hold himself accountable for, and some fans don't, and that's just kind of whacked. So yeah, like okay,
kind of
if
he had his name played off type thing, people would be more critical of him.
Yes, if he was Jizuke, he'd be getting way more shit. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Okay.
I mean, I do kind of remember his TF and basically giving us the game a few times with the either not flashing or tipping into us and dying. So he's definitely not performing well this split, or this playoffs for sure. So, but then again, I know how fucking hard it is to roll swap in a game or in League of Legends, and he for the past for like we heard for the past 2 years he's been swapping to 80 to mid to 80 to mid, and then before coming to C9 he was still like for the entire split he was playing AD. So yes, he's not playing well, but I still feel like you gotta cut the man some slack. Give him more time, see how he does. Because when he came to NA, he was so bad. He was playing mid lane so fucking bad the first few weeks, and then he started improving. And then he's not playing well. I'll give you that for sure. He's not playing well, but he is a player that achieved a lot, and then I feel like if he wants to do it, he will do it again. That it's up for him if he wants to do it or not. Only he knows that.
I would even add on to be more fair to Perks that not only is he role swapping, he's also region swapping, which we've seen be really hard on a lot of players in the past as well. So just to give him some slack, I would add that as well. Nah.
I mean, Freeze has done the region swap as well. I don't know. Do you culture shock yourself? You couldn't go outside in LA without throwing up?
No. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, for European to NA, it doesn't matter.
Interesting.
I mean, I'll also say it's probably somewhat personal as well. Like, I think if it was Santorin or Amazing, their first time swapping, like it wasn't like a culture shock thing. It was just like homesickness more than that. So like I think for some people it can matter maybe, but it's not like Korea to NA where I have seen players culture shock and just been like they feel horribly uncomfortable with everything.
Yeah,
Mark?
and it could vary by player to player for sure, right?
Okay, two quick things. Freeze, one, you said give him more time. At what point in time has he had enough time?
When Worlds is done.
Okay, so for you, it's like, okay, you had the year, but now you're going to Worlds. You better make it work, otherwise, yeah, you are sucking.
Yeah.
For you,
if he doesn't perform at Worlds after practicing versus the best, then it's BG for him.
He's washed.
Yes.
What constitutes performing at Worlds for you? Is it like an individual metric, like, hey, his team didn't get out of groups, but Perks looked really good, or is it more of a team success thing, like, they got out of groups?
That really comes down to what type of a player he is or what he wants to be. There are players that will play for the team, and when the team does badly, then they will look bad, and then there will be players who play for themselves, and then even if the team does badly, he will look very well. So there's always a balance between those two styles of playing, and it depends what Perks wants to be doing. Because if he will actively try to play for his team and help everyone else rather than himself, he will end up looking slightly worse in the end. So that will come down to whatever he wants to do and however he feels like he has the biggest success with winning with C9. But yeah, it'll be the individual performance for him.
Well, Mark, how about you?
I mean, what?
Is Perks sucking? Does he still get more time?
I don't think he sucks. I think, he's making more mistakes than I'm used to him seeing, but I don't think he's washed or terrible. I can understand if he busters out at Worlds, fans will be very upset, though. I think there's a lot of expectation that was put onto him joining here. So I think he's disappointed that expectation.
Has he disappointed your expectations?
You're asking me?
Mark.
A little. But I mean, like, I didn't think they were going to win Spring, or they were going to win Lock-In. I thought they'd win Spring, then they won Spring. MSI was kind of and then this split has been kind of hit or miss for him. So like I don't know. Has he been? I don't think he's that far off my expectation that I'd be like, where's my Perks accountability thread? The way some people see, like I'm definitely not on that level.
Yeah. Well,
I think if we looked back at like the start of the year and we heard that he wouldn't be even an All-Pro or on the All-Pro ballot in summer, or that he would be one game away from like complete failure of not going to Worlds, I think that that's an area where I don't know. I think a lot of people would be really afraid, and I would even say Cloud9 is probably still questioning whether they made the right decision, and they'll probably have a final answer after Worlds. Like, if Perks pops off at Worlds, I think most North American fans would agree. Who gives a shit about regular season anymore? Worlds is what we care about. That's where we always suck, right? So
No, it's a good
still
point.
got redemption. He's got a chance to redeem himself, but for now, we have to say he has not looked consistently good.
I think that's fair. I think
fans
it's. Go ahead, Mark.
all the C9 fans are watching that Fnatic, those series this weekend, just missing Niski. That's what I think's happening.
I mean,
was my next point.
we had a run it that we were thinking about doing if Niski went to Worlds and Perks didn't, and just sort of comparing the two of them, because it is pretty wild, yeah, how that goes. I don't know. He's definitely disappointed in my expectations. I agree that he can redeem himself at Worlds if he has his pop-off performance, but like right now, I don't. It's hard for me to think there's much evidence that that's going to be the case. You know, we did a run it this past week about if Perks factor is a thing, or if playoff Perks is a thing, and people got really upset because if you look at it statistically, it's not been the case, and he doesn't normally get MVP and stuff, and so maybe it is his like stepping up and leading the team, but you have to basically say there's no direct evidence other than the wins for playoff Perks being a thing. And some people go, well, if you are winning all the time, then that means you are playoff Perks. And I'm like, okay, well, there's other people who won a lot of titles and they were not necessarily playoff so-and-so. So I don't know. I am really, I would have never thought he wouldn't. I would have for sure thought he'd make the All-Pro team, and I think it's wild that he didn't. And I don't know. It's just wild. JHB team in the chat. Okay. Blue Jay, thanks for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Yeah, just quick shout out to 100 Thieves. I was thinking about like what this win means to all like the individual people, like the players, the coaching staff, obviously Papa as well. It means a lot for so many different storylines. So just huge shout out to 100 Thieves. I think it's really cool that they got the dub. And thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, congrats to 100 Thieves. Thanks so much for the call.
Take care.
All right.
You doing an ad read now, or am I getting another?
We'll do one more. Thank you to... Nope, nobody else has subbed. So there's now we just sit here in silence. That's normally when I read out a sub and no one subbed between the last call to this one. So it's just Freeze and I hanging out. Nice apartment, Freeze. Like it? You're in the living room?
Thank you. Yeah. It's one bedroom apartment. So it's like living room / kitchen.
Studio type thing.
Everything,
yeah.
sort of.
Yeah. Nice. There's a bunch of subs. I'll read those out after this. Will Roku, is that how you say it?
It's B will rock you.
B will rock you. All right. Well, everyone who doesn't know how you spelled your name will have to forgive me. Anyway, where are you calling from?
Akron, Ohio.
Akron, Ohio. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I saw a tweet earlier that said 9 out of 10 of the finals players were not NA players, and that tweet was getting pretty rancid. And even while I was in the waiting room, I was seeing some of our more frequent callers saying, well, it doesn't matter if 100T makes it out of groups because it's not an NA team. There's 0 NA players. And I think that stance is completely overblown. I think the fans and the media make a much bigger deal out of the import rule than necessary. Travis, you included. And I don't think any of that matters. And I think someday is actually the perfect example why none of it matters.
So, sorry, as an aside, you say people make a big deal out of the import rule. Do you think, like, are you, I know your call's not directly about this, but just for context, are you in favor of completely lifting it and removing it?
I think that if the teams individually do their due diligence to get the right players, that it wouldn't matter if it was gone or not. And I think it would be better explained, when I further explain the take.
Okay,
but
go for it.
I am a 100 Thieves fan. I was at the 2018 finals and watched them get smoked. I watched Someday cry on that stage. I also was there through the thick and thin when Someday took a bench and went down to Academy and played for an entire split just because
Forgot about that.
the team was failing. And watching him get that win yesterday on stage and crying in the interview with La Tigris was like the pinnacle. Like that, what more can you ask for in a storyline? This guy was considered one of the top laners in the world, world finalist. He comes to North America, and all he wants to do is win. And at any point during his tenure on the team, I'm sure he probably could have just left. You know, I'm sure when he was benched, he probably could have just left and said, no, I don't want to take a bench. I don't want to play in Academy. I want to go win somewhere. But he stuck around and he stayed because he wanted to win in this region. And it wasn't his pride or anything. Anybody who's ever watched interviews with Someday knows he just cares about that team and he cares about that league. And he wants to win for North America. He could do it anywhere, but he wants to win here. I think Core JJ is another good example. He's a literal world champion. He comes here and he starts doing more stuff on YouTube and putting out these support how-tos and organizing his own in-houses. Like he wants this region to be successful. And I don't think all of this negative feedback about, oh, well, we don't have any NA players, so why should I care about the region? It's not about where the player was born. It's, do they care about this league and do they want this league to succeed? And I would say that the imports that we have right now all want to see this league succeed and that they all want to win.
I don't know if all of them do, but certainly the ones going to Worlds seem to. Okay, I have a big thought.
None of the staff is NA either. Freeze, Lustboy, Papa Smithy, Reaper, none of them.
Our analyst is NA born and raised, so
Well,
here we go.
Well, he sounds like he should be looking for work come next year.
Import coming for that job.
Yeah. Okay, I have a big kind of thought on this. So I don't know if anybody wants to go before me. Freeze or Mark.
You can go.
Okay.
Oh, I'll go. Okay. I see two sides to this. One, I don't think it is good that there was only one North American player in the finals. I think that there are a lot of people in North America who would love to be pro and to be playing on the final stage, even if it wasn't in front of an audience. And I hate that the, people watching that who aspire to go pro in North America see that and think, wow, it is really difficult to do that. I think that that's really unfortunate. This is not to say that I don't appreciate the players that are here or that I am like, well, we got to change the import rule and get rid of all these guys, or like 100 Thieves doesn't deserve it, or they're not representing North America. But I do think that the system is lopsided right now towards players from other regions, and that is bad. However, if that is the only thing that you take away from 100 Thieves and their win, I think it is very short-sighted. Because for me, the story of 100 Thieves making it is actually a story about NA development, ironically. Because last year, 3 of these guys, people forget now, all this time later, but 3 of these guys, the core of them, were FBI, Closer, and Huhi. Huhi was a washed player who it seemed like was just sort of hanging around in the league, and people were waiting for him to retire. That was the general sentiment of him at the time. And Closer, like, people had heard about him over here, but I do not think NA fans generally were, had high expectations for him joining. Similarly with FBI, we've just pulled from Oceania, some random Inero nepotism type thing. And what that team was able to become, going from Golden Guardians, who like Keck W Golden Guardians, this team that is like at the bottom of the league, blah, 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 to last year where they pushed TSM to 5 games, and then this year winning the league and going to Worlds, I think shows that, yes, in North America, you can develop talent and have that talent become champions within the region. Someday, similarly, like, obviously an incredible player from another region, but if North America is just this swamp that ruins everybody that's in it, like that dude would have gone under a long time ago, yet continue to be good. I know Abadage just came over here. Obviously, you know, he's the fifth member here, but for me, I just think like North America can develop talent. If you can develop FBI from the Oceania region, who's like, you know, all the things that people say hold back North America are 10 times worse there, other than I guess the ping. And like that player can become the best AD in the league and become the champion within 2 years of being here. I think we can do the same thing for North America players. So it is very, again, kind of backwards thinking. I get it. But you have to look at, in my opinion, the 100 Thieves team and say, yes, they are all import players, but that also does mean that we are capable of developing talent in the region over the course of just 2 years versus like, hey, we always have to import the next perks or whatever to the region.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think, you know, we definitely have the ability to develop the talent. And this year, more than any other year, we've seen more North American talent come up into the LCS and be successful. A Blaze Olive, Danny is a shining star already. I mean, we're getting there. The league is getting better at it, but I see a lot of negativity just specifically, even after we've seen success stories, those players didn't make it to the final. So everybody's kind of shitting on the region again. So it's just kind of more where it comes from.
I mean, I have stated my opinion on this a fair amount. Like, I feel like if you pay the due diligence, you know, you pay your I'm an NA player tax, then you get a pass from me. Like, I don't think all import restrictions should be lifted. I like that there is a path to being a North American player, though. People like Someday, you know, to the caller's point, has been around forever now. He's the most tenured player in the LCS, as we talked about a little bit on the desk. Like, you know, he's a fixture in the league. He feels like a North American player to me at this point. I know he didn't come from here. I know he didn't necessarily develop here as like, you know, he was in OGN and all that stuff, but feels like it. And I would say that applies to most of the players on the team. Same with Huhi. You know, he's been here for fucking ever. Even before like LCS, like his days on Fusion, I think it was, or whatever the fuck that team was called. Like, he's been here a long time, even before he won on CLG. So like, yeah, these guys feel like North American players to me. I don't care that they weren't born here, but that doesn't mean I want, you know, everyone can come over. Let's get 5 Chinese players who want to make worlds and don't want to have to compete in the LPL. Like, that will happen again, kind of like the LMQ situation. And if the LMQ guys stuck it out for, you know, 5 years, then sure, they'd feel like North American talent too to me. Not saying there's anything wrong with that.
That's why you're fucking wrong, caller, to call me out about this import rule shit, because whenever I think it's important to avoid the scenario Mark is talking about, and like whatever people say, oh, everyone just makes a big deal about this import rule thing. It's not me sitting here being like, oh no, I hate that 100 Thieves is going to Worlds. It's more like I don't want to see a team that was in the finals of LCK last year end up in LCS because some company in the US made some deal with that team to acquire all their players or some bullshit.
There's a really small other tangent I wanted to go on, which was the FBI point. I would love to get fe0a5d's take on this as a former AD carry player himself, as well as working with him directly. Like, how much did he develop in North America from like North American development versus like, I kind of get the vibe from watching it that it's kind of like big fish in a small pond who then went to a slightly bigger pond. Like OPL, there's plenty of good players there, you know, but it seems like it was a tough server to play on for solo queue, even worse than North America. The scene was struggling, so it was an upgrade to come from OPL to here in terms of competitiveness, and he has then started dominating here as well. It feels to me like this is someone with a lot of talent, and if you put him in the LCK or something, he would continue to improve there because he's kind of just a beast. So I don't know how much you feel like that was North America and you guys, or just like FBI's natural, like that's who he is kind of thing.
I think it's pretty much him. It's his natural state. He's I've always told him this, and I don't mean this to like you know, insult him or anything, but he's an animal. he has he's there's a bunch of players and they have different personalities and they have different styles of playing and how they're learning and everything. FBI is the guy that has instincts and basically he improves those instincts by spamming games or by looking at VODs or going through scenarios, and he trusts his feeling or instincts, and then does super well with it. He's super talented. So he was good already when we were scouting him. When I was scouting him for 100 Thieves in spring, actually, I was surprised by him. How good he was. I didn't notice him, how much of an improvement he made when he came to Gordon Guardians because I wasn't paying attention to him. But he did improve a lot in NA. How he did that? He did that by every single game I see him, he watches VODs of Ruler and other players. Full VODs. All the scenarios, all the trades, everything they do. Watches all of them. Day and night. Morning and at night. We go to the office at 10 a.m. We leave at 9 p.m. All the time. In queue all the time. So any player can do this in any region. You just need to want it badly enough. And this brings the point to me where on Sunday when we're facing off TL, I look at TL players and I look at our players. I could see that in their eyes that we wanted 10 times more than TL players. We just wanted the win so much more that we made it happen, and it was such a quick stomp. If you truly spend your living cell for something, you will be successful at it. It is a fact.
Well, there you go.
So it's easy to say just want it, but yeah, that's how I feel about this. And any NA player can do this if they just have the drive and want to do it. There's a lot of talented NA players,
I love it.
Caller.
Well, hold on. Freeze didn't say, are you guys North American team? Internally, are you guys nah, we're the import team?
Nah, we don't care. I feel like at least for Someday and Huhe, they know they're NA for sure. They feel that way. And overall, we don't really we're representing NA. We're NA, so we don't really we don't feel like we're EU team or international team. We're NA team.
Caller, thank you for the call. Is there anything you want to shout out?
Shout out 100 Thieves for that big W yesterday, specifically Someday for sticking it out. I think that Freeze proved a lot of my point that it may, all we need is for the players to actually care and want to represent the region. And if we get more of those, I think the league is still going to be strong. I don't care where they were born. I just want them to want to win here. But also shout out Game Fuel and Alienware. My M15 R4 is running great, and I love it.
Hey,
and thank you guys for having me. Have a good night.
Awesome to hear. Thank you so much for the call. We'll catch you next time. All right. We're going to take a quick break. He shouted out Game Fuel, which is great because now I could talk about Mountain Dew Game Fuel, our sponsor of Hotline League. We love Game Fuel. They will be, if I end up in the U.S., I know I think I said this previously, but if I end up in the U.S. for the World's games, you bet your ass I'm going to be drinking a lot of Game Fuel because those hours, I recall, are wild from last year, and they're going to be wild again this year, even though it is in Europe. So thank you so much to Mountain Dew Game Fuel for sponsoring the show. If you guys want to do me a favor, you can go to gamefuel.com/Travis. Maybe you've already been before. Just going to the page is very helpful, clicking around, and take a look at some of their flavors. You can use code Travis when you check out to save 5% on your order, but they have a delicious variety of beverages for you, including zero sugar. Sometimes people ask about if they have something like that. They do have zero sugar, so you can go check them out. Watermelon Shock or Raspberry Lemonade. We thank GameFeel so much for sponsoring us and everything they do for the show. And by the way, if you guys have been completing the Victory Pass, please tweet at me and let me know how far you guys have gotten, because I'm curious how many of you guys have leveled it up. I know I've talked about it in the past, but there's only 2 weeks left in it. So if you have leveled up some, or if you're looking to get to the next level of it, be sure to check out the rewards section of the GameFeel website. All right. Mark is grabbing the next caller. Thank you to everybody who subbed whenever I cried about it last time. We got Indigo Fog, Fiddle Your Sticks, Lorkai, Crash Cat, Connor Reese, Matthew, and our caller is here, Ron Blade, who's messing with something in front of his microphone. Ron Blade, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Sydney, Australia.
Sydney, Australia. Okay. Were you cheering on FBI?
Yeah, it is pretty exciting. I mean, obviously sad for Fudge, but yeah, no, FBI is definitely very good.
Well, what did you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is just looking back on the format now that we've had a full year of this single season system. And I guess some of the changes that we had, I think there were clear upsides. I think having 3 games a week was great as a viewer. I think the main thing there was that it ensured you just had way more weekends where you had great matchups. Like in a 2 game a week system, you'd often have a weekend where you're like, none of the teams that I care about are playing against each other. And so it's a bit less exciting, but with 3 games a week, you pretty much always got a matchup that you were keen on. But I think there were also some kind of longer term downsides. Like I think the carryover of the spring record, I don't know, it really just made Summer Split a bit more depressing, I think, for some of the teams at the bottom. Like as a viewer, I felt bad for them. I was like, ugh, it's so rough to start with, and then it just keeps getting worse. And I mean, obviously you could argue if they just got better, then it would be fine. But like, I don't know, I think it made it more sad for me to watch them play. And then I guess the other thing is I think the full year split makes having the 7 and 8 teams in playoffs just seem even weirder, because it's like, no, we've really had a full year to make sure that these teams are not that good. And then it's like, we still give them this other chance. I don't know. I think that, yeah, the playoffs could do with a bit of a relook. I feel like there's a bit of, feels like every league likes to just invent their own format that they think will then be the best. But really, they should really look around and see what other formats are kind of working. And I think EU's probably got the right balance, I guess, between kind of spring record helping you in summer, but still having, and that combination of the kind of old school gauntlet format for the third world spot with the traditional playoffs format. But yeah.
So I'm very curious as to what caused such a sudden and dramatic drop in viewership over the course of the summer. And I'm wondering how much of it is, my suspicion is there's just too many games. Like, I know that's an unpopular opinion here, but I think that, and I can understand from a viewer perspective, it's like, well, I mean, are there ever too many games? Because I can always just watch the ones that I want or whatever. But I do think, like, it's just a lot of content. And so I think that's part of the thing that led to the viewership drop. And we saw that similarly back in the best of 3 days, where I just feel like there were too many games and it became fatiguing to follow. But maybe I'm completely wrong, or maybe it's some combination of this, but also the carrying over of records, where maybe just by, like, to your point, late in the game, because it was basically like by the 3rd week of summer, things started to get really bad. And by the last month, I know viewership was just really bad. It's recovered mostly in playoffs, but I don't know. Mark, what do you think of the format stuff?
Would rather hear what Freeze's opinion is, because I have mine, but I don't want to.
You want to hear his first so that you can tailor.
Yeah, I
want to
steal his thoughts and then agree and be like, yep,
okay.
I agree.
Yes, okay. Well, yeah, Freeze, what do you think both of the record carrying over and of the amount of games?
The record carrying over, when I think about it, it's kind of good from my perspective, where at least it makes the spring more important and every single match more important for summer. And as a player, you know, there's always been the spring doesn't matter, and a lot of players had that when springs doesn't matter. You know, when they would just take a break from tryharding and playing too much because they would be burned out from the entire year. So I think that's good for the players to keep trying, or for the teams to like take it seriously. But then the format, I've never been a fan of free games or game days of a day. I actually agreed with Travis, or with you, Travis, there, where it feels to me that the league is so full of content. There's so much content everywhere that it's overflowing. It's oversaturated, where LPL plays every single game, or every single day. You know, they have one day off, and then they play stage games every game. There's so much LCK games because they play BO3. You know, there's LEC games, and there's LCS games where we play 3 days a week. So it's definitely really hard to keep enjoying it when it becomes everyday thing, rather than something you look forward to, or where you like excited for it. Because right now it's like there's always league and there's always something. So for me, if I was a viewer, the only thing I would right now care is about getting a player that I like, or his personality that I like, and then I would watch only that guy and no other games. It wouldn't really matter for me to watch anything else than that personality. And that's what is missing for me in NALCS, where there's a lot of the players are too nice, a lot of the players are afraid to say something. Well, let's fucking make a show, you know, like just make the show. You guys need to make the show so it's entertaining. But yeah, I definitely think, you know, playing twice a week is better than playing 3 times a week. Yeah.
So sorry, did you say you would keep the carryover from spring to summer, but you like the idea of moving twice a week?
I don't really mind either way. That for me, that is, you know, it's not that important, the carryover thing, where I would have to think more what it means to the worst team in spring, or the bottom teams in spring, and then, you know, carrying that score for summer has to be super depressing and super bad for them. So it might be actually bad to have the carry on score, but I don't really care that much right now, honestly, about it.
Because one of the arguments for carrying over and for having more games is, well, the team can experiment more. And so I don't know if you felt that way, like during the season, where you like, oh, we've got all these extra games and we're carrying over our spring record so we can try different stuff in the middle of summer.
Well, the whole season we were trying to play new styles and new champions, all of that on stage. So we're kind of experimenting, but I feel like we would do it either way if there would be 3 games a week or 2 games a week, where you know, you kind of need to find what is good for the team on stage, because stage is different than scrims. And then kind of from that perspective, when you get that information, you apply it to before playoffs, and then you mend and create the strategy and environment for the team with all that information you got in the regular season, and then you carry it over in playoffs. But in some extent, yeah, I guess more games is good, but we would do it either way. So yeah.
So I feel like, let me ask one more question to Freeze before I get mine. Do you feel like with the whole spring not mattering thing, like this regular season games carrying over was better, the same, or worse than championship points of old?
How did the championship points work? It was
based off playoff finish. So like if you got first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth in playoffs for spring, you would get more points the better you finished.
Yeah, and then in summer as well, and you would basically then have a gauntlet about the points.
Yeah.
I think from the viewership perspective, the gauntlet would be better, because it's more exciting to see the gauntlet and someone that is, you know, like a lower bracket possibly going all the way through the gauntlet. So I think the gauntlet would be, or usually the gauntlet for me was more hype than it is right now, that you carry over the score.
Well, I think they kind of replaced the gauntlet with double elimination, right, Mark?
Yeah, they You would seed playoffs if you did how it is now, like combining the two. You would use the championship points plus a regular season finish in summer
Right.
to seed the double elimination thing. But to Freeze's point, maybe a separate event is better for viewership either way. My 2 cents on the whole thing: the 3 games a week angle, I don't have a strong opinion on. I would defer to what other people seem to have a strong opinion on. If teams fucking hate it because they lost the practice day and it just feels too compressed, or fans think there's too many games, I don't have a strong opinion, because either way I'm watching everything the LCS does and kind of whatever. The format, though, I have a very strong opinion on. I think it was pretty bad, the change for viewers. I think I understand for players where it's like, oh, spring doesn't matter compared to 2020. But I would be like, listen, winning a championship and going to MSI should be enough of a motivator as your job to want to do well. I'm sorry it doesn't seed directly into Worlds, which is the most hyped event of the year. I understand that might not feel like it matters, but I've always been like, how can you not care about your job enough? Whereas viewership, I have to imagine it felt very fucking bad to go in and see 10th place team fighting 8th place team in week 2 already with pretty bad records. I got to imagine that made it less appealing to watch. And you already have a problem in summer from a viewership perspective. It always is lower than spring. Summer viewership every single year is worse than spring. And what you've done to make spring matter is make summer matter less and precede it to already have these like strong storylines going on. And I think that is one of the big reasons viewership dropped even more this time around. It was a bigger drop than you've seen before. And I think that's maybe the 3 days a week thing contributed to it as well. But like, I got to imagine if you're just kind of like an idle LCS fan and like you're already seeing 6 and 11 play 3 and 12 or whatever Golden Guardians was after the end of the regular season from Spring Split. It's just got to feel fucking bad, even if they made upgrades and like roster moves and they start playing better. And then to Empire's point, 8 teams make playoffs anyway. So like, I just got to imagine it made the summer games feel very worthless for a viewer to think that they mattered. Like they felt like stakes were really low, lower than they've ever been. And I think that's a big problem with it, is like spring was already doing fine from a viewership standpoint. So what did this fix?
Yeah, I'd also say, sorry, if I can, I would just say that also, as I think the whole spring doesn't matter thing is like it only really applies to like the best players in the league. And I think that's why it gets so much time and discussion, is because, obviously Doublelift most famously said it, but like the people at the top, spring doesn't matter to them because they're confident that they're going to Worlds regardless, and they're confident that they've got this year to put it together. But like, I remember once in an interview with Apollo or whatever, like he talked about how, of course, he wants to win spring. Like if you're in the bottom 6 teams or even the bottom 7 teams, like winning a title is an achievement in and of itself. And like, that's always going to be exciting and interesting to you. Like, sure, if you've won LCS 6 times and you go to Worlds every year, like I can understand why spring feels like a lot of effort, because you really just want to be on come Worlds patch time. But like for 70% or more of the league, like I feel that it is a thing that matters. And so like, as you say, you're kind of solving a problem that is really only there for a few people, and screwing over summer as a result. And I mean, in EU, they use championship points to seed playoffs in summer. So like, it still does matter a bit. Like Fnatic had to start at the bottom of the bracket because of their poor